barbed wire.
Say, y'all, what happens if Brandon Ingram returns to the Pelicans? Y'all ever thought about that?
You must know that first. Can't nothing and nobody fade what we trying to do and what we about to do. Second thing is, we got this game on our level. You understand what I'm saying?
Welcome to another episode of In Space. I'm your host, Chris Connor. Y'all know Lito already. I'm me. That's him. We're we. You're you. They're them. I think that's it. So, shout out to Crystal Hot Sauce here, always supporting us. Shout out to all the good crystals in the world. You know what I mean? And all the bad ones. I think that covers it for the sponsors here. It is June 12th. It is 10:01 Central Time. It looks like the Celtics are up 3-0 in the NBA Finals. So that's a wrap. So if you didn't know, we were already in the off season. You know, if you don't consider the Pelicans being in the off season as your off season, we pretty much here now. Lito, how you doing, brother?
Oh man, it's all love. You know what I'm saying? It's peace and blessings. We keep it peachy peachy. You know what I'm saying?
Y'all be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, man. Get your comments out, man. Hey, look, I be seeing like some like the show when the show gets to Instagram, or even some of the comments on the YouTube, man. Look, I promise y'all, I don't have to do this. We don't have to do this. So this ain't like I'm not searching for no clicks. I'm not searching for no attention. We really get up here and talk this shit because we like doing it. We want to put out the content, and we want to, you know what I'm saying, have as much fun with this and be as creative as as possible, man. So it helps anytime y'all support the show, spread the word, share, comment, chop it up with us. You know what I'm saying? God damn, what the fuck is that?
Damn,
You know what I mean?
they don't want the videos. They talking down on it. They talking bad. They talking bad for him.
Yeah. What? Would you say? Say it again.
They go bad man farm.
That's terrible. That's terrible. So yo, while we here, Brandon Ingram. So we did all these shows about trade candidates for Brandon Ingram and trade different returns, different players, and we didn't talk draft. We ain't done with that. Still more draft breakdowns on and free agent breakdowns as well. But now, yo man, I want to talk what happens if he returns, which Lito, I guess I'll actually start it off with you because you had during the show, the Sunday show, if y'all missed it, there was, I think Justin asked you a question about Zion and Zion kind of taking the reins from here and if he would be able to do it. And here was your response.
He's taken this team to multiple big time wins, especially on the road. I mean, he had 40 against LA. You know, there are moments there where you see it.
I don't know. I don't think Brandon's going to be out.
You really don't think so?
I mean, what have you seen that? Yeah. My fault.
You really I've heard you say that a few times here, man.
A few times. Yeah.
And I believe that it's a combination between fatigue, fans wanting something new, and there's a portion of the fan base that would welcome / wants Brandon Ingram to return, but I don't think that's for everybody. I'm curious from your perspective when you make a comment like that and when you say it with such confidence. Go a little bit further into your thoughts about why you feel Brandon may not leave.
Man, you know the same. I hate to answer a question with a question, but it's kind of the same thing that Justin. I was trying to like allude to Justin. When have you seen this basketball team, or you know what? Let's just stick to this regime, this particular era of the basketball team. Have you seen them have the Chris? Let's call it audacity. The audacity to move a player like Brandon, who, for the most part, like it's kind of like a 50-50, 60-40 split in the fan base of how they feel about him. Like he got a large constituency of fans who want him to stay, and on the other side of it, he got a large part of the fan base who feel a different way about him. And then some people are neutral on the matter. We all know how Griff and Willie seem to feel about Brandon, and that's very highly. Like Griffith said, glowing things about him, even though in coming into this offseason, he said a lot about leadership. And I'm not sure if he was. I'm not. You all right? You good? All right. You look like Spider-Man. I didn't know you. I didn't know. So he said a lot about in the offseason. That was.
Yeah, that's a little crazy.
Oh, and you don't know if those comments were relative to Brandon or Zion, for real.
Hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo, hey yo.
I respect that. It was hard for me to continue with my soliloquy without the yeah. But look, man, this organization, I said this in a video the other day. This organization does not work from a position of foresight. They work from hindsight. They don't see the problem months, years before it happens. Generally, the problem is staring them in the face. It's like, you come home one day, right? In the you run water in your bathtub, some shit like that, and then the drain stopped up, right? But it had been signs prior to that day that this was about to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now you're in a spot, if you're the Pelicans, where everything I've seen, Atlanta has no interest in trading for a Trey Brandon swap straight up. They have a newfound, a trade for Brandon. They have a newfound interest in keeping DeJounte. Cleveland just put out a statement a little while ago saying that a podcast that they're not interested in a Garland for Brandon trade straight up. And Chad says this a lot of times. I don't think that the fan base, or not even a fan base, I think that the Pelicans may overvalue their players better than what most other GMs in the NBA do. And now you're in a position where you more than likely, not only can you maybe not trade him, but you probably gonna have to pay him.
So that leads me here to my next point. I believe Justin, shout out to Justin, he put this in our group chat earlier from I gotta find it here. I believe it's from Michael Scotto, who, make sure I credit him properly, does work with US Today Sports as well as Hoops Hype.
I think it's Chris Fetter. Chris Fetter was the person.
Okay, so I'm all wrong. So whether it's Chris Fedor, whether it's Mike Scotto, this was what was put out earlier in regards to the Cavaliers and just overall rumors. So here was a particular point in regards to Brandon Ingram and the Cleveland Cavaliers. So there's been some chatter about whether Cleveland would have interest in Brandon Ingram. But I've gotten a sense from talking to lead sources that Cleveland isn't enthralled with the idea of trading for him and then having to pay him a ton of money after his contract season. I'm quite confident that New Orleans looks at Garland and values him if they were going to part with Ingram. I'm not sure that would be a fit for Cleveland based on the intel that I have. Now, we did a show not last Sunday show, but the Sunday before then, and we were talking value, and we also talked a little bit about it post show, and I'm still kind of with the mindset that we might be surprised about what Brandon's value is, but I read that and I think about what Ross was saying, for example, about where he thought Brandon's value was, almost to where you might be in a situation where you might have to attach a player or attach a draft pick to get something worth value, or you may have to take a negative. Brandon could be viewed as somewhat of a negative asset, not as a player necessarily alone, but if you're talking play style, the season that he just ended with, maybe the injury history, and the upcoming contract extension, the money that he may want or may ultimately deserve, that may not be something that a team is willing to give a whole bunch back for. So now that goes back to the show that we did about talking about Denny in Washington, and maybe some players that are, maybe more so up and coming, maybe younger, maybe not of the name value of where Brandon has worked himself up to, but when we're talking talent and we're talking fit, they're in a range to where it's a respectable return back for Brandon that could ultimately end up fitting your team better. But again, what that says to me is that I read that as that Cleveland is the only team that would have that fear of trading something of value and having to pay him money with him being in a contract year upcoming. And you might find that problem with a lot of teams around the league. And then at that point, if you're New Orleans, what do you do?
I mean, so look, now if you're the Pelicans, I feel like, Chris, we've been making videos about, so far we've made one about Goga.
Yeah.
We've talked about that particular player as far as like being available center-wise for the Pelicans. And I think that, while people look at the name and they laugh because they had higher expectations, I think we've been trying to get them ready for the situation of like, hey, there's not a lot of money available to do certain things. I think if you're trading Brandon, Chad has been saying this for a while, we've been saying this for a while, there's a very strong possibility you're not getting an all-star type player in return.
Right.
You may have to settle for one or two median type players in order to fulfill a deal. We mentioned
or salary flexibility.
Yeah, exactly. And we mentioned Denny Avia. We mentioned like guys like that, and it's crazy. I saw some of the comments where he wasn't good enough to trade for Brandon. And the thing about value is all about the perspective of where you are. If you're the player, if you're the organization who has the value, why would you engage in conversations with a team who is, Denny's under contract. I'm just using Denny for an example. He's under contract, right, for the next, I don't know, 2 or 3 years or so, some shit like that. Brandon is expiring, and then based on style of play, heliocentric type ball, and I'm not here to shit on Brandon, but like Brandon's particular brand of basketball, you haven't seen it all playoffs. There's not been a team or a player who has played that way, whatever that is, whatever you call that.
So let's look at it like this, because, and this is all, and look, I mean, if we're talking, extension talks, there's the chance that, I mean, even a bigger nightmare presents itself possibly for New Orleans, to where Brandon says, the Pelicans offer him an extension, or maybe a short-term extension, or even possibly a long-term extension that doesn't meet his salary expectations, and he says no.
Right.
And he decides to kind of bet on himself and go into the last year of his contract without an extension in New Orleans. And on the other side, New Orleans isn't able to find something that they find as an adequate return.
That's a I didn't mean to cut you off.
Go ahead.
That right there, though, to me, that's a fireable offense. That's a fireable offense. How many times have you been in this particular situation? You've
the ball.
Exactly. Again, this particular regime, I'm not going Dell Demps, I'm not going to anybody. You have been in this spot where it's, for instance, you were going to lowball Lonzo Ball, right? If he was going to return, it wasn't going to be the money or the years that he wanted. You had every inclination to trade him the year before. All the writing was on the wall. Everybody knew. People in the organization knew. People outside of the organization knew. And what you got in return for him was a disaster.
Thomas Adoransky, Garrett Temple, and I believe a second-round pick.
And a bag of Greek yogurt. Like, what did you get? Some peanuts. Like, you got some Funyuns. That was like what are we doing? So in my if you repeat this process with a player like Brandon, Chris, the thing about the Pelicans, when I say working from a position of foresight and not hindsight, right? You knew this extension was coming up. You knew 3 years ago, right?
Yep.
That at some point, hey, look, we got to do something. Are we trading him? Are we keeping him? Are we making him the centerpiece? Now, look, again, this is 90% Zion's fault.
Well, but look, I mean, look, because what if, and I mean, we do have to at some point very soon talk about what happens if he returns, just strictly from a basketball perspective, and what it means for this team's, future and present of them, in a sense, running it back again and kind of filling out the roster with spare parts. But I have some other questions on that side of things as well. But I guess when it comes to Brandon, when you think about, like, if he worked this season to change his play style, and he was more, modern based in regards to shot selection and taking the shots that I think would make him and his counterparts, his best player, or his just the guys around him more effective more often. Mm-hmm. And really, all you're really saying is the open three. I don't even know if the transition three is as important as him just taking the open three, the slightly contested three, the lightly contested three. But let's say if it's beyond that, if you have other issues with Brandon's game, whatever your thoughts are, whatever your critical thumbnails are in reference to his game, if he put it in off season that changed that and catered to what some of the changes that maybe you would want to see that you think would make this more effective, would that change your thoughts about a possible return, or whether it be short term or long term? Or are you simply over it completely, over the experiment completely at this point, and just ready to move forward?
I am of the notion, I always say this: the name on the back of the jersey does not matter to me. It's all about the name on the front of the jersey. I'm all about team. I think the Pelicans' greatest need is having a guard.
Uh-huh.
We'll solve a ton of inefficiencies, and it would give light to when the offense bogs down. You see fourth quarter stall outs. To me, that's the pipe dream. That's
Yep.
That's what you need, right? However, if that is not attainable, and we are in the business of keeping Brandon, if Brandon does come back to the team and he is willing to amend his play style in order to fit not just Zion, but the others who need more minutes, who need the ball. You know, Chris, we did a show last summer, did a couple shows, and I told you 21, 7, and 7.
Right.
21, 7, and 7. If you get that from Brandon Ingram, like he gotta be. I know we talk point Zion. Brandon, in my opinion, has to be the person who gets others involved. I do want, everybody should have their turn facilitating, initiating, whatever. Brandon, more so coming out of college, he had that kind of rep. He had that long before the Kevin Durant comparisons. I watched like hoop skill summits and shit like that, and he had write-ups about his offensive approach to the game, being naturally unselfish, being pass first, being that guy. And I'm not saying he hasn't played that way. I'm just saying he needs to do more of that. And it might, like it might need to be 20. It might need to be 27 and 9. But he gotta up that part of his game. And listen, there is a world where it could work together. They could work, Brandon and Zion. The parts of Brandon Ingram's game that he needs to take out is, for one. I'm sorry. Are we on that part of the show? I don't want to skip ahead.
Not yet.
All right,
Not yet. Because because I do want to get back to that, but that you say Brandon and Zion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's perfect, because what happens in a world where the Pelicans look at the trade market and they say, all right, you know what? We're not going to take negative value. We're not going to take the loss here for Brandon.
Sure.
We're going to give him, let's say it's a short-term deal. Let's say, I don't know if Brandon would sign a 1-and-1. I doubt that he would. But let's say they're able to work out a deal that works best for both sides. And then let's say they shift completely. What if they decide to bring back Brandon and shift the trade target of the summer completely? And maybe CJ becomes the person that we're looking at, or her, packaging, involving Dyson, or whoever else you might think might be involved. What would your thought process be surrounding that?
I'm of the same mind and perspective of, I'm not loyal to the person whose name is on the back of the jersey. I love
no, just for the team. I'm talking just for the roster. Like let's say they bring back Brandon, and then the goal becomes, all right, well, you know what, we'll trade. Maybe we'll look to trade CJ. We'll look to trade CJ now, and who knows? Maybe this welcomes. Who knows what type of crazy shit they could do? For all we know, they could trade CJ and company, go get a center, and have put Trey Murphy in the starting lineup and have Herb Jones run point full time. For all we know, you know what I'm saying? Like, but what would your thoughts be about that? Because it feels like we've all come to there was a point in time during this offseason where I felt like I was 78% sure that Brandon was going to be traded for multiple reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And, as time goes on, for whatever reason, and you start hearing things, you start talking to people, you start thinking about value, you wonder, with the way that Griffin works and him always seeming like he needs to feel like he's coming out a winner in a deal, if Brandon's value isn't where maybe I thought it might have been, or maybe others, what would it look like if he shifts to saying, well, the plan wasn't to trade CJ, but it is now? the plan maybe wasn't to trade this person, or trade Herb, or trade Dyson, or trade whoever, but it is now. And we'll try a different way of building around Brandon and Zion that we haven't before, regardless if it's popular within the fan base or not.
I wouldn't be mad at that approach simply because, for me, again, if you're working from a position of foresight and you're saying you're going to have to pay CJ pretty soon, or you're going to have to make a move on CJ pretty soon, depending on what the return is. I'm not comparing Brandon and Zion to Jalen and Jason and JB. I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, if you look at how they play together, or the lack of them actually playing, because they're not really involved. They're not running a pick and roll between each other, but they have the ability. Both can create off the dribble. Both are willing 3-point shooters, and both Jason has been much more of a willing passer than he ever has been in the past this particular offseason. If you look at this finals, right, Jason Tatum has not been having great games, but the one thing that has been happening is he's realized I have to get the others involved. I have to sacrifice my scoring in order to get Porzingis shots, in order to get Peyton Pritchard better shots, Sam Hauser, Derek White, Drew Holiday. Jason Tatum has been setting the table. So what I'm saying is, from that perspective, one of your two best players has to take a sacrifice. Who is that? I don't know, but you've heard Zion say last year that he took a back seat.
Yep.
In my eyes, that's him saying, I sacrificed for the greater good of XYZ. I would like to hear, I don't even need to hear it. I would like for Brandon to show those same things, but just show it on the floor. It doesn't have to be a whole lot of communication. If the Pelicans were to pivot CJ, Herb, or even Trey, for example, I'm just throwing this out there. If they were even to pivot, you know what I'm saying? Like, what is the return? Does the play style change? Those are questions that I will have. I'm not opposed to any of it, though.
Do you think the number one overall goal of the offseason, no matter how it arrives, is everything being built around Zion Williamson?
I think so. And look, not to jump around, but this is why I said Zion is 90% at fault for what's happening. But I think so. I think in order for the Pelicans to be successful, you got to push all your chips in to Zion's direction. You have to. You gotta see what, that Laker game to end the season, that you gotta see if you can get more of that out of him in a run of not having in a playing game. Chris, let's just say this, because check this out. Not to say we was right or whatever like that, but those games that the Pelicans lost, the Orlando Magics of the world, the Spurs, those games, right? Let's just say, for instance, you win one of those games.
Mm-hmm.
You avoid the play-in tournament. Zion more than likely doesn't have to give you 150% in that game, in that Laker game, and he probably don't get hurt.
Yep. In fact, you're probably the fourth seed.
You probably the fourth seed, right? So when we saying all of these games matters, I'm not saying that this to undermine the coaching staff, undermine the fan base, or saying I'm smarter than anybody. But we always talked about how loaded, how stacked the West is, and in this instance, you literally lost everything in a second because he tried to be Superman, and there was nobody else. That particular game, there was nobody else helping him get to that reach the plateau he was at, right? And get it. Brandon had been hurt. He was hurt. He was pouting on the bench, whatever. But if you don't have that game, who knows? I take them beating the Thunder with a healthy Zion. You know what I'm saying? Brandon coming back from injury. I feel much better about that series. I mean, obviously they wouldn't have been playing the Thunder, but you know what I'm saying, still.
Yeah, and look, I still think ultimately, I still feel like ultimately the Pelicans will they're gonna find a way for multiple different reasons to make a move on Brandon, and I think part of it is because they probably feel like at this time it's time to really devote everything to Zion. Maybe they've been able to see enough of last year of what type of team they finally need to build, and they're gonna go in all on that. And I do agree with you. Like now, it should have taken this long, and part of that is on Zion. Part of that is on the front office as well, and the coaching staff, and everybody involved, because certain things with Zion shouldn't have even had to involve him being on the floor. You should have been able to forecast and think and go out and find a stretch five. You should have went out already and got rim protection or a point. Like, you should have been able to see these things already in regards to what this guy was going to need, and fail that way versus failing bringing back some of the same guys and trying to look at it that, I think this is the year where you'll probably end up seeing that change. But there is a chance, and it could be I don't know how probable of it, but I don't want to dismiss it. There is a real chance that Brandon does come back, and I think folks need to be ready for that possibility as well, and what that means for the rest of the roster, what that means for Trey Murphy, what that means for Zion Williamson, what that means for CJ McCollum, what that means for if they keep all those guys and have another season without a real point guard at the in the starting lineup if they bring everyone back, and what do they do at center? It's just, I feel like if you bring Brandon back, you're back to asking similar questions that you've been asking for the past 3-4 years, and not even just similar to not just in regards to them. Talking the center position, talking to you're talking CJ and Zion, you're talking Brandon and Zion, you're talking Brandy, like you're talking them as individuals. You would be banking on, I think, a lot of inner development because you don't have the resources to improve from the outside. You're talking draft, and it's just what it's been for a while. You're not a free agent destination to where guys are going to take pay cuts or guys are going to be lining up to come and play in New Orleans anyway right now. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting. But David Griffin, once again on that exit interview, man, he said change the changeable on the way, Lito. They've seen what they needed to see. They think that they they finally got some things on film.
Yeah, like I told Justin, you know what I'm saying? He could be talking about,
he was talking about Jonas.
He was talking about Jonas. He was talking about
Jonas and Najee.
He was talking about Jonas and Najee. He was talking about Cody Zeller not being on the team any longer. He was talking about the parking lot the parking lot attendants. They gotta clean the parking lot up a little bit quicker. The parking spaces need to be painted a little bit more bolder white so you can see the lines when you go. Those are the type of changes that he was talking. The thing about Griff is he never really elaborates on anything, so you can't. It's hard to hold him to things. He's slippery. He what I'm saying? Like he definitely sold cars at some point in his life. No disrespect to all the used car salesmen out there giving people 79% interest rates.
And let's make it clear. I'm an internet sales car manager. I'm not out there actually providing the interest rates, but I can tell you if you're on the way to get one.
No doubt. You the people you the person who you booking the appointments. Like you getting them in the door.
I'm helping my team get them in the door. I'm working on different ways. I'm answering all your questions when you call me. Yeah. When you call me and you say, man, I got a 570 score, you know what I'm saying? And I'm behind on my car and I'm upside down. I'm flipped. You know what I'm saying? On my current car.
Yeah.
And they say something like, I'm looking to lease. It's like, no, you're not in position to lease right now. I feel like that's the Pelicans right now. I feel like some of the customers that I be talking to right now, man, they got these expectations and don't really know what it means to make it, to make it happen. But we can dream, right? And that leads me to our final point, and we will close this show here. Let's see. So you sent this to me. This was brought. This is via Reddit. Shout out to Reddit. Let's see here if I could. Afro Circus. Man. Here we go. How was your grapes and blueberries today, sir?
Man, I was solid. It was steady. I just had some salmon. Whenever I told you I was about to eat before we potted. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Salmon and some green beans. You know what I'm saying?
You did that. See.
Yeah, man.
See? It wasn't that difficult.
No deviation from the plan.
Yeah. You was able to do it. You was able to do that the whole time.
I had the foresight to see what I needed to do today.
Exactly. You figured it out. You figured it out early. You didn't wait until 8 o'clock to make the decision, and then let your stomach walk in the
a contract negotiation. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how you end up with fast food or bad food. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Versus you sent me this. So
yeah.
Here was I do want to shout out the person from Reddit because I clearly blocked his name out, and I don't like when people do that to me. So this is from Confident. Yeah, this is from Confident Berry 7271. Shout out to Confident Berry on the Reddit NBA page. So he says it's tough talking about trades when the last we saw of a player was pretty disappointing. People treated like the player was trash and not worth trading for. But Ingram it's just a matter of to who. And I think there are a couple options. Here are these options, and then we're going to get up out of here, Lito. Ingram and picks to Phoenix for a KD for more picks, Devin Booker. Chaz has been talking about Devin Booker for a while here, as of late. This kind of works as a bailout for Phoenix, gives them a way to have, excuse me?
That's crazy.
To have a what?
That's wild.
For competing with some...
You ain't gonna say it? You ain't gonna read it? They got people who not watching, they listening.
With some flexibility.
Damn.
All right, what? Okay, I got it. Gives them a way to have the starting running back for the Cleveland Browns. His last name. With still some flexibility.
Drake bodyguard.
I.e. picks or retooling. I wouldn't call it likely though. OKC, this will be totally for picks and maybe a few of their prospects who aren't getting much playing time. I like the pairing of Brandon, J-Dub, SGA, and Chet. This team is nuts. Maybe it's just me though. Now here's one I think we've seen already. Golden State for Kuminga and CP3. I think this is a great one, last ride type trade for the Warriors with their core giving them a new star who can be kind of like Durant was without being KD and a bit younger. What the fuck does that mean? Wait. I'm going to read it to you again. I think this is a great one, last ride type kind of trade for the Warriors with their core giving them a new star who can be kind of like Durant was without being KD and a bit younger. I have no idea what he means there. He just said hey, everything and nothing at all.
Hey, you know what that means? It's kind of like how the Chrysler 300 was looking like a Bentley, but it wasn't a Phantom. Yeah. It was looking like a Phantom, but it wasn't a Phantom at all.
Until a Phantom pull up. The Miami Heat for Tyler Hero and picks. I like this trade. I feel like we've seen this as well. Yeah. Feels like he'd be an A+ fit in Miami. Talking about Brandon. Then Orlando is excited for Paul George this offseason, and I don't think that guy is going anywhere. Ingram could maybe be a good compromise. Still think they should be trying to get guards, but if Paul George is on the table, I don't know why Ingram wouldn't be. I think we're gonna do another show on this. It won't be tonight, but I think we're gonna do another show on this. But if we don't, I want you to give me, if you can't pick one,
Yeah.
if you can't pick number one, what would you pick between the rest? Just give me one of them.
If I
If you
can't
can't
pick
pick
one.
number one, if
Okay.
you can't pick number one,
Gotcha.
which one of these would you pick?
None of these are happening.
I understand. But that's not what I'm asking, Lito.
All right. Okay. If I'm gonna be as realistic as
I don't know why that's in here, but
I think I put that in. I put that in here for some reason. I don't remember.
All right, but go ahead.
If I had to be as realistic as possible,
Yep.
I'd say probably the Tyler Hero one is maybe as realistic as you get. You've heard rumblings coming out of Miami of maybe them looking to move him, them looking to shop him, them wanting to put another type scorer around Jimmy. You've also heard Jimmy is available. So I don't understand the Orlando Magic one because like that really has nothing to do with the like what it if I could at this point if I could swap Franz for Brandon, like me and you, we did a show and we talked about who's better between Tyler and Franz, and we still don't know. I still don't know who's better. So probably the Miami one.
Okay. Well, look, man. That pretty much covers it from here, man. We, any type of ideas we got, man. We kind of just, recording, being as creative as possible. I hope, the whole crew is, man. I say everybody with associated with Book Crew right now is being as creative as they can and putting out work. We're gonna continue to do that throughout the off season. And it'll be, in a lot of ways, it'll be a lot easier once we get closer to certain events, once we get closer to free agency, once we get closer to draft time, and then after the free agency, after the draft, and then the ideas kind of blossom from there. But in the meantime, man, we gonna continue to try to matriculate the ball down the field. Shout out to I think Vince Lombardi said that.
Oh, I thought you were about to say shout out Derek Carr. Go ahead.
They say he been looking all right.
Man,
in OTA.
I've been shout out to Lala. Shout out to Lala. Who's been getting great coverage for the Saints on Booker Media. If y'all not a shout out to Roswell Glue talking about that shit every day. He going live. Roswell Glue had a live like the other night at like 9 p.m.
We gotta join it one day. We gotta join.
I started to yeah, you're right. We do. I started to that day. Shout out to Chris, man.
Yeah.
We'll see, dog. Look, I just want my teams to win. I'm tired of being a loser.
That's really, bro. That's really it. That's really. I got all this shit up here, man. You know what I'm saying? We didn't suffer long enough, man. Just want all the teams in the city to win. If they win if they get a hockey team, I still ain't been a hockey game. By the way, you been a hockey game?
Man, when the Saints, the city had the brass, fool.
I remember the brass. Yeah. See, I never been to one. I never been to one, and I think I went to a couple Zephyrs games. That's just baseball, but when it was in the city, I think I went to a couple Zephyrs games.
Well, I went to my favorite player in DC. So I went to a Cavs game.
You a Ovechkin guy?
Absolutely.
Is he like Wale?
He better. He a champion.
He better than Wale?
He better. He a champion.
Wale not a champion?
Wale ain't never. I could never say Wale was the best player in the game at any point.
Okay. Right.
I could say Alex. It was always Sid the Kid and Alex, and then when Alex, to me, that season that Alex won that ring, he was a Ovechkin fan.
Y'all didn't think y'all was gonna get hockey talk. I didn't either. But yeah,
stop trying to put us in the box, bro. Like you can't box us in.
The goal is, man, hockey, basketball, football, table tennis, don't care what it is. If it got New Orleans on it, we just want y'all to be good, man. And we want to not talk about the same shit and the same players too. That ain't, you know, bring success one way or another, man. But yo,
Hey,
y'all get in the comments. Y'all let us, go ahead.
Before you end the show, y'all got any trade targets y'all want us to talk about? Please drop a line in the comments. You got any trade? You got any spot track? You doing trade videos and shit like that? You got any players you want us to break down film on, whether in the NBA or college? Holla at us.
Oh, shit, y'all come up here and talk it with us right now.
What that?
But yeah, man, get in the comments, man. What do y'all think? Is it a complete disaster if Brandon Ingram returns to the Pelicans? What would you how likely do you think that something like that can happen? Are you bracing? Are you preparing yourself for the idea or the chance that he does return? Would you welcome him back with even a short-term or a long-term extension? We've been talking about all the different ways that he could be traded and who he could be traded for. But again, what happens if he returns? For myself, for Lito, for the New Orleans Brass,
I sit here and we zone out, you dig, and just appreciate how it came and thank God for the blessings.